How is it possible for one man to be seen as a saint and a demon at the very same time? Today, we're diving into the rise and fall of Pablo Escobar, who might be one of history's most contradictory figures. We're going to unpack how he became both a beloved folk hero and an absolutely terrifying monster. And right here, this is the core of it all. On one side of the coin, you have El Patron, the boss. To many in his community, he was a kind of Robin Hood, the guy who built houses and schools for the poor. But you flip that coin over, and you see a ruthless narco-terrorist, a man responsible for a wave of violence that killed thousands. So how on earth does one person become both of these things? To figure that out, we've got to go back, way back, to the beginning, because his story doesn't start with billions of dollars and a global drug empire. No, it starts in a pretty humble town in Colombia, with a young man whose ambition would, one day, bring an entire nation to its knees. Way before he was the cocaine king, he was just another street hustler. Growing up in Medellin, he cut his teeth selling illegal cigarettes, stealing cars, forging papers, petty crime. But these weren't just small-time jobs. This was his training ground. You could almost say it was his apprenticeship for a much, much bigger and more violent career. So what was the big leap? How do you go from stealing cars to becoming a global kingpin? Well, in the 1970s, he saw an opportunity that almost nobody else did. The world was suddenly desperate for cocaine. And he didn't just grab that opportunity, he built an entire empire on it, one that would change the face of organized crime forever. And here's the thing, he didn't do this solo. He and his partners built the Medellin cartel, and it was an incredibly sophisticated operation. I mean, just picture it, secret labs hidden out in the jungle, their own private fleet of airplanes for smuggling, and a distribution network that stretched across the entire globe. It was basically a Fortune 500 company, just, for cocaine. And the sheer scale of this thing, it's almost impossible to wrap your head around. At their peak, the Medellin cartel was supplying an estimated 80%, not 80% of Colombia's cocaine, 80% of all the cocaine being used in the entire world. It was a monopoly on a scale we've rarely seen. And that kind of market control means money, just ridiculous amounts of money. The cartel was pulling in around $400 million, not a year, not even a month, a week. That kind of cash flow makes you one of the richest people on earth. And it funds absolutely everything, from building houses for the poor to paying for a private army. So you've got this massive, violent enterprise. How do you keep it all together? How do you stay in charge? For Escobar, it all boiled down to a simple but absolutely chilling philosophy that he captured in just 3 words. That philosophy was plata or plomo. In Spanish, that means silver or lead. And the choice he gave to judges, cops, politicians, you name it, was brutally simple. You can take my bribe, the silver, and look the other way. Or you can give a lead, a bullet. A bribe or a bullet. That was it. With that one choice, he could bend pretty much the entire system to his will. Those 3 words were the absolute bedrock of his power. And this is so important, right? This gets us back to that first question. That Robin Hood guy, the one building soccer fields, that guy only existed because of the river of blood and money flowing from his real business. The 2 sides of Escobar weren't just coexisting. One fueled the other. They were fatally intertwined. Now, you just can't operate like this forever. You can't have one man holding an entire country hostage. Something had to give. A clash with the Colombian government, and of course their allies in the US, wasn't just likely, it was inevitable. This was about to become an all-out war. So what was the spark that lit the fuse? It all came down to one word: extradition. See, Escobar knew he could handle any prison in Colombia. Bribe his way out, kill his way out, whatever. But a US supermax prison? That terrified him more than anything. So the second it looks like he might actually be sent to the States, he declared war on his own country. And his war was just brutal. He went after everyone. In 1989, he actually bombed a civilian airplane, killing 107 innocent people. By 1991, he got so powerful that he negotiated a surrender by building his own prison, a luxury resort really called La Catedral. And of course, the moment the authorities tried to move him to a real jail a year later, he just walked out. Simple as that. Okay, so him just walking out of his own prison, that was it, the final straw. The government was completely humiliated. No more deals, no more negotiations. This was the beginning of one of the biggest, most intense manhunts the world had ever seen. And this wasn't just some local police thing. Oh no, this was a massive joint task force. We're talking the best of the Colombian police, backed by top-tier US intelligence and all the latest tech. And they all had one single goal: find Pablo Escobar, dead or alive. And then, on December 2nd, 1993, they found him. It all came down to a chase across the rooftops in a Medellin neighborhood. Right there, in the very city where he was once treated like a king, Pablo Escobar was killed in a gunfight. And just like that, the reign of the Cocaine King was over. So, he's gone. What's left? What kind of legacy does a man like that leave behind? Well, as you can probably guess, it's every bit as complicated and contradictory as the man himself. Even today, people are completely torn. To most of us, he's a monster, right? A narco-terrorist who caused an unimaginable amount of suffering. But if you go to some of the poor neighborhoods in Medellin, you'll hear a different story. They don't just see the monster. They see the guy who gave them a home, who came from nothing just like them, and who stood up to a system they felt had forgotten all about them. Which brings us right back to the beginning, and that final haunting question. What do we do with a guy like Pablo Escobar? Was he purely a villain? A twisted kind of folk hero? Or was he something else? The inevitable product of a specific person meeting a specific moment in history. There's no easy answer, and people will be debating that for a long, long time.